Hi, my name is Jareese Espinosa, and today I will be taking you through my HCDE 313 experience. Coming into the course, I was extremely excited to get started, which is not the typical feeling I have entering a new quarter or class. This is because I am an undergraduate of the psychology department and want to pursue a career in user experience research. So this class, while not offered in my major, seemed like a perfect class to take in order to gain more experience in my future field, and I could have not been more correct. My project for the quarter centered around the water fountain system at the IMA. I was hoping to address external and internal problems users experienced in order to encourage and improve the use of drinkable water. I began with a field observation study of the IMA at various locations, from the weight room to the main floor, which was an important step in the research process, taking observations and gathering data in a natural environment. This helped me to identify the behavioral patterns of the users and ground myself in the problem. In order to get the most variety of observations, I elected to pick different days and times of the day to conduct my observations, however, focusing on the busy times of the space. This allowed me to see a variety of behavioral patterns between groups, such as morning versus nighttime members. However, some major problems occurred. I realized afterwards that my scope for the project was too big, as water fountains outside the weight room weren't generating significant observations, so I iterated on my design question to focus on the weight room. The field observations were then followed up with one-on-one semi-structured interviews. These interviews were used to validate the findings of the field observations, but also to identify intrinsic motivators toward user behavior. I was able to gather participants, eliciting the help of friends to put me in contact with their friends. This recruiting strategy was suggested by one of my classmates and was a great piece of advice to expand my research abilities. I found this to be an amazing strategy, as these participants could be counted on for meeting times and authentic responses, while also minimizing participant and research familiarity. However, one of the challenges of this study was the formation of leading questions, which took me a while to address and adapt to. Leading questions result in biasing the participant responses by steering them towards a desired answer. What was especially challenging was the fact that small differences in diction, word choice, and even mannerisms can bias the participant in a leading manner. I was able to move past this using a mock interview and running my questions by my classmates. A mock interview allowed me to practice my flow and mannerisms, while collaborating with my classmates helped me to address my diction choice to avoid leading questions. The interview study was then followed up with a survey study created using Google Forms. The survey study was used to validate previous findings in a larger sample and to explore, elaborate, and extend new ideas, given a larger sample. Some key points about the survey study was the design of the questions. While surveys appear to be very easy, this is a misconception, as much more thought has to go into how you form, write, and analyze your questions, as different structures such as multiple choice versus ranking questions afford different methods of analysis. Some challenging parts of the survey study was the analysis of the data and the formation of visual charts. This was especially hard because I didn't put as much thought into how I would analyze my responses as I did in the formation of the questions. This left me with data that, while on their own validated previous findings, made it hard to visualize new trends. However, I was able to move past this with the help of Professor Allen and the pivot table demonstration. Utilizing pivot tables and trying out many different combinations of data left me with charts and trends I could be happy with. Simply, exhaustively iterating over the different possible data combinations led me to see significant and interesting trends. What I found interesting about the research process and methodologies is that each one, from field studies, interviews, and surveys, provided different benefits and drawbacks in their own right, wherein each one builds off of one another to help you get the most out of your research. Each study provided different strengths with their methodologies. The observational study allowed me to ground myself in the problem and observe behavioral trends and extrinsic factors within the system and my users. The interview study allowed me to validate the findings of the observational study and allowed insight into various intrinsic factors that influence members' behaviors. The survey study allowed me to validate, explore, extend, and elaborate on previous findings and new ideas while utilizing a larger sample. A larger sample means more external validity, so the findings can be more generalizable. While each methodology provides different strategies, each also has their weaknesses. The observational study simply allowed insight into objective behavioral patterns, but not the intrinsic motivation behind why the behavior took place. The interview study had low external validity, as the sample size was 3 participants. While insight on intrinsic motivation was gathered, these ideas may not be generalizable to members of the IMA. The survey study, while having a larger sample size, was still relatively small, but the biggest obstacle is that responses are subjective and their reliability and validity is questionable. Since this was a self report survey that was anonymous, the participants may have not been authentic in their responses or been attentive to the questions. Reflecting on your work in future endeavors is vital as it can help you to solidify your process and make the key points of your research stick. After taking this class, user research has been solidified as my future career aspirations. I now have a deeper understanding of the topic, methodologies, principles, etc., that go behind this vital field. Being able to understand your primary user while also being able to understand the demands of other stakeholders is important in designing a prosperous product. I just wanted to say thank you to my professor Alan Marks for helping me throughout the quarter and providing amazing resources in class like activity discussions, guest speakers, etc., as well as outside resources like the various articles and textbook links to help further my understanding of this amazing field. Thank you for this wonderful quarter.